years, like, Craig, we don't have the money, we got to wait till next year, like all the excuses once again in December, in which that they're not pushing the trigger on.
So here's the thing. When I hear that, what I always wish we could revert to is, do we have tapings of the original calls that you've had with them, right? And I think the answer is no here, right? So there's really no way to confirm if certain things were covered. However, first of all, there's going to be scenarios where sometimes those things, they're just truth bombs and they just happen, right? It's just going to happen. But you shouldn't be getting a bunch of them. So, and what I mean by that is if you're hearing like, hey, no budget, it's got put on hold, a lot of these things mean that we either didn't have a strong enough hot button to begin with, we weren't speaking to the right person, we didn't ask the time frame question early on and to address that, right? So there's these things that we could have, if we would have asked them, we probably wouldn't be in this situation. And the hard part is to go back into, and to second guess, because there's been times I've said to somebody, well, they go, yeah, well, I've asked all that, I said all that, and then their manager sends me the recording and it's not in there at all, right? So, but those are really those are signs for you in the future. When if you start to get above your comfort threshold of those kind of excuses, it should be a sign for you to start going, did I really get problem recognition on this one lead? And you should have it in your notes, right? You should be able to go back to like, do you have one specifically right now that you're thinking of that just gave you that kind of...
Well, yeah, I mean, a couple of them. I mean, and do keep in mind, it's not like I have a dozen. I mean, I'm working literally on dozens of prospects. And recently, they're like, Craig, there's nothing I can do. And I'm just giving them, like, options of purchase, defer payment, sign off now. I'm worried about payment in January just to get the contract through. I'm just trying to, like, brainstorm of more ways to do things. Because obviously, I have pressure to close deals this year, not next year. So.
Okay, so let's stop right here. This is really important, okay? Because you're doing what all of us have done, and some of us still do, and is that you're trying to close the deal because you're thinking about yourself and your pressure. And so here's the thing: that can bleed through over the phone, and then all of a sudden we blow the trust that we have, and now they don't want to do and they could be telling the truth, but then even when it comes back around, they do have the budget, they go look elsewhere because they didn't, they had a sour taste. So we want to avoid some of those things. So here's the thing: the one main step that I heard you say before. So let's do it this way. Let's say I'm the sales rep. I'm following up with you, and you go, well, listen, you know what? With the timing of the year right now, we just need to wait till next year, or January, February. I mean, is that kind of what you hear sometimes, something along the lines, or do you want to be? Or I want you to do this. Give me an objection you're hearing now, something like that. You be the prospect. Ready? Go.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Craig, for all your time. I appreciate the demonstration. It was very informative. Great software. We saw a couple of our competitors that were similar to you. However, and I always say that word "however" because that's what I hear. However, within our budget right now, we can't move forward till a new fiscal budget, or we have nothing right now that we can spend on your software. But we're definitely. Oh, the word is considering. We're considering on purchasing it, but we can't move forward. I'm going to use the word, pull the trigger right now. And then what I do is really.
Hold on. Let me be the sales rep now. So because one of the things you say is that you don't have the budget, right? You squeeze that in. So let me ask you a question, Craig. I mean, other than the budget, I mean, is there anything else stopping you from moving forward with this right now?
No. 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 It's a money issue.
Okay, so if they said, yeah, go ahead, and they gave you the authority to go ahead and say, yeah, go ahead and get it done, we have the money, I mean, would you be pulling the trigger now?
Yes. If we had the money, we can produce and sign off on the contract now. It's a budget issue. And also with what we sell as complex of a sale, I always say, because it goes through multiple hands. I mean, we don't go through the sergeant. We go through the administrator, the CFO, the business administrator. I mean, multiple people have to sign off on it. Now I'm running into the holiday season where, once again, people are away, 2, 3, and with public safety and government, I'm sure you know, people don't take a day off. They're taking like 2, 3 weeks off in a row.
Right. So
to get the 3 or 4 signatures, you guys literally be in their face, like knocking on their door and saying, hello, here's my contract, and I need the 3rd signature on it, or a purchase order, and it's a tough time. And then again, I'm mixing things up here, but then again, you're going to get a handful of the other way around where they're going to need to spend the money at the end of the year, which I haven't really experienced yet, before they lose it. The money.
Here's a couple things. One of the things you have to be careful of to try to solve this
Mm-hmm.
is you've heard every objection under the sun.
Yeah.
And what you have to be careful of is you have to realize that every prospect is going to be unique. And so to solve the problem, you don't want to combine every objection you ever heard under one into one prospect, because that doesn't happen, and to try to solve it. So in other words, each one's going to be unique. So the first things first is this, is before I ever do a presentation, get problem recognition first. If I got problem recognition, great. Other than yourself, who else is involved? Then the next thing is, listen, if you really like this and you decide you have to have it, I mean, how realistically, how soon are you hoping to have something like this implemented and started so you can start benefiting from it if you really like it?
Right.
You have to be asking that. That's the time frame question. We have to be asking that. And it's also, and listen, I don't care. You know, I know my normal strike zone. You need to know yours. I mean, if yours is a little bit more of a complex sale, it's normally, they say it's a 90-day thing, and they say 6 months or 8 months or 12 months,
Mm-hmm.
then before you do a presentation, you need to investigate that. And for me, it's like if I ask somebody, like I had a guy earlier today, I said, you know, if you really like what we have to offer, you know, how soon you hoping to get started with your team or something realistically? You know, if he would have said anything other than 30 days or less, I simply would have said, listen, I'm more than happy to help you when you're ready next month or the following month. You know, it's just normally that when somebody's missing their quota, they want to fix that sooner rather than later. So may I ask why you might feel like you might need to wait that long? Mm-hmm. And if they have a legitimate reason, they come back and they say so, and then I handle it. Or they realize that, well, yeah, maybe I should do this a little bit sooner because it was more of a defense mechanism. But either way, I get that out of there. So it's either a real reason why they have to wait, and I note it, so I can go ahead and put it in my notes and properly, you know, have my pipeline set up, or I make them think, and then I shorten that time frame right then and there. The next step is this. Listen, you know, once we do a demo, if you really like this, what happens next? Where do we go from there?
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, let's say you really like this and you decide you want to pull, you know, what's next? And then, again, I'm still doing all this stuff before my demo. And if I get the time frame and everything and who else needs to be involved, then you do your demo. Mm-hmm. Make sure you do your tie downs in between there. Take a breath every few things. Just don't, you know, throw everything at them. You know, problem, solution, benefit, problem, solution, benefit, problem, solution, benefit, right? So you're explaining a problem. Here's how we solve it. Do you see the benefit in it? Yes. Okay. Here's this problem here. Here's how we're going to solve it. Do you see the benefit in it? Yes. All right. I like to do like 3 of those. And if I'm getting strong yeses on those, I call them green lights. If I get a yellow or red, I got to ask about it. But if I get a green light, I move forward. When you get to your end of the presentation, this is where the recording would really help us, right? Because I could actually break it down for you and go, right here, you should have said this. But at the end of the presentation, you got to be asked, listen, I know I'm throwing a lot at you in a short time period with this demo, but let me just ask this. What do you like best about what you've heard so far? I mean, are you asking that? I mean, you have to be these questions are designed to help you, because what it's going to do is this. First of all, you won't even get this far if you do my questions right and they're not the right person. You'll know that early on. So you won't waste time thinking you have a deal, getting somebody really excited, but they can't pull the trigger, right? So you're going to learn that early on, or if it's not in the budget, or if it's not in the time frame. Don't forget, I qualify before I do the presentation on price range too. I'm going to say, based on what you're telling me, your price range is going to be between this and this. I mean, if you really like it, is that doable for you?
Right.
You know, and if they say no, it's just like when you say no, I mean, do you mean no, you couldn't afford that if you like to spend on it, or you mean no, you think you might have a better solution elsewhere for less money? Which no are we talking about? Mm-hmm. If they go, wow, we might have a better solution elsewhere. Well, listen, you might, I don't know, but the question I'm really asking is if you really end up liking our solution best and you decide you want to move forward with it, you know, and it's this price range, is that doable for you? Well, yeah, in that scenario, I guess it would be. Okay, guess what? Now you know the time frame, you know the hot button, you know that the money's there. Now, keep in mind, we're not asking those questions if once I got pain point questions in the hot button, once I qualify them on their role, if they're just an influencer or an information, or especially if they're just an info gatherer, I'm not even doing any of this stuff. I'm not even going to have this conversation until they get the other, you know, the captain or whoever else involved, right?
Right. Yeah. So, most of the time. Yeah. Okay. I hear.
So the thing is this. But here's the problem, right? If we skip any one or more of those steps during this process, you open yourself up to the things that you hate hearing right now. And the whole step-by-step sales buzz process is designed that way because I, early on, had the same obstacles, objections, and I hated dealing with it, and I'd have to try to overcome it, and I was a really strong closer, but I would overcome it, and I would strong-arm them into a deal, but I would never get a repeat order because they bought from me, but they hated me because I was a hard closer. And I was like, that's no good. So I changed it all up. Instead of being, reactive, it's just being proactive. I ask the questions up front. If I get a green light, I go to the next step. I don't run red lights is the best way I can say that, right? I mean, I'm not going to answer a question, get a red light, and just move forward anyway because I want a sale. I'm gonna stop the process. I think if you map these things out and you just keep practicing asking the right questions the right way for the right reasons at the right time, and then knowing what to do with the answers you get, when you finally, I'd rather you have a smaller pipeline and a much higher close rate than your pipeline look great and then nobody's buying. And because here's the thing, you're wasting all your time doing all these presentations and chasing people who, some probably don't have problem recognition, some probably can't make the decision, some really don't have the money, all those other things. So if you follow the process, you're going to start to get better results. Does that make sense or no?
Oh, no, that absolutely makes sense. Absolutely makes sense. And as far as time is concerned, I wanted to mention, because one of the things you mentioned was also try to get everybody more in the discovery, I guess maybe before the demonstration. But a couple of that I have made in the past, they actually just spoke up and said, I'd rather have a demonstration than a discovery because it's harder for them to get their colleagues on a demonstration than, going to a discovery call and then seeing they qualify and then going to a demo. So
yeah, I don't call it a discovery call. I say, I like to have a quick conversation to make sure we're a good fit for you first before we get everybody. Would that be okay? That's what, yeah. When I do a say, I just want to make sure we're a good fit for each other. Just a quick call. Would that be all right? They're like, yeah, let's do it. I mean, but yeah, if you call and say, hey, I want to have a discovery call with you, they don't have time for that.
Yeah, to learn a little bit more about them before we go into a demo. But they're like, I just rather have a demonstration, Craig, because it takes me a long time to get the, my rest of my colleagues on board. So I'd rather just see your solution immediately, kind of deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you mind if I just ask you a few questions first to make sure it's going to be a good fit for everybody? Would that be okay?
All right.
That's how I'm going to come back. That's how I'm going to come back. Yeah. Right. So what you're doing is this: we're doing the old way of selling, which is fine, right? I mean, because you're taking anybody that says that has any interest and you're doing the presentation, but we're really skipping a bunch of qualifying stuff. So that if you learn early on, and because here's the thing, here's why you're doing it. So if I go back to when I remember I used to do it this way, is one of the things that you have to combat internally is your fear of losing a sale if you don't give them what they want when they want it. Right. And that used to I don't know if that's happening to you in some of these scenarios where they're asking for a demo, maybe in the back of your head you're going, I realized I should really be asking some better questions first before I do a presentation, but then you might go, well, they're saying they want a demo now and I don't want to piss them off, so let me give it to them. But then the problem is, if we didn't cover the basis of what's the primary pain points we're trying to solve, what role do you play? Once you find the solution you're happy with, what happens next? When would you like to have something like that implemented? What are the top 3 things you're looking for in a solution to solve X? And then, if you, based on what you tell me, to solve those 3 things, you're going to be in between this price and this price and this price, on a low and a high. And is that doable for you if we have the right solution for you? And, notice they didn't say the word budget. Never ask if they have the budget. This is the dumbest question in the world. But I go, listen, based on what you told me, you're going to be looking at between this and this is what the financial ramification is going to be. It's going to be, it's not going to be less than this. It's not going to be any more than that, right? And then if they go ahead and they say, well, yeah, that's doable. Well, look what you just did now. You knocked out no budget. You found out a time frame, so they're not going to say whatever. You found out who else needs to be involved or what the process is. And now, especially when you ask, what are the ideal solutions you look for to solve this type of problem or whatever, you can cater your presentation directly to their needs. And then that's where you get those tie downs, each one of those presentations. And then when you're about to wrap up your presentation, you just go, well, listen, I know I'm throwing a lot at you in a short time period. Let me just ask this. What do you like best that you heard so far? They tell you, okay, I like this, this, and this. All right, excellent. So, listen, I'd really like to, to earn your business from here. So, I mean, other than pricing, is there anything else stopping us from moving forward now? And if they go, well, we really can't move forward now, but what's your best price? Well, now you're in a negotiation. Listen, so I have a couple pricing options. obviously it's the end of the year, so we want to wrap things up. But let me ask you a question. I mean, if the price, if the incentive, the internal incentives that we have right now, if they're good enough, you know, can we move forward before before everybody goes off on break for the Christmas holidays? If they say no, don't give your best offer.
When you say don't give your best, yeah, right, I'm listening.
Yeah, don't give your best offer yet. And here's the other thing, too. A lot of times salespeople, I was guilty of this early on, is, you know, we got a hot prospect, they're sounding like they're loving our demo, and we want to give them the best price right up or the best offer. I say best offer because sometimes the best offer, it's not just the lower price. It could be, you know, a standard price, but we're offering something in addition or whatever, right? So whether it's the best price, best offer, whatever, a lot of times we want to come in and give it to them right there. Because we know we just feel that we could close them, and then we give it to them, and then they're human like everybody else. We want to negotiate. And if you gave them your best right up front, there's nothing left. There's no room.
Right.
You know?
With me speaking, Mike, though, I'd never give it off the bat the best price. We're coming to the end of the year, and obviously the executive management has said we'll have to give like a little promotion going on now, maybe like 10% off the software, only on the accounts that are lingering or about to close. So I'm going through making, obviously, dozens of calls per day, going through my pipeline, going to the ones that look like they're about to close by the end of the year and saying, listen, what does it take to get this thing closed? We got a promotion that's going on, you know, 10% off the software if we're able to close it by the end of the year, of course. And that's something I'm kind of running with right now. How do you feel on that then?
Here's what I want you to do. Once you find out that pricing is the only option, don't say the 10% off yet, because now they already know what it is. It's much better to have the mystery. Listen, if I call you and say, and I go, Craig, listen, I know we've been talking regarding the software to help you solve X, Y, Z. Let me ask you, where are we with that? Well, we're here. I'm trying to get so-and-so to approve it before the end of the year for the lead. Listen, I have an end-of-the-year promotion running right now, but it's only good if we can get the deal signed and delivered by this date. I mean, is that a possibility? Well, what's the incentive? Well, I can get into that in a second, but let me ask you a question. I mean, if the incentive is good enough, you know, how would we get this approved, you know, and get it done in time? And then I would just be, you know, and sometimes I would say, listen, everybody in December is getting ready by next week. When next week rolls around, everybody's going to be thinking about Christmas. They're already going to be in pre-holiday mode. We know this as a company. So we have an extra added incentive for people to put this at the top of the plate, because I know I'm not the only person contacting you. You probably have a lot of vendors after you. But we have an extra incentive to help motivate you to put this on top of the plate to get it done. But I would just need to make sure that it would get done by X amount of dates. So, I mean, can you make that happen if you like our incentive good enough for you? And then it's like, well, what is it? Well, again, can you get it done if you like it good enough? Yeah, I think I might be able to. I'm not giving an answer until I get my answer back, because here's the last thing you want to do. You don't want to offer a 10% discount to somebody who can't get it done but will get it done in January, and then they want the discounted rate in January.
Yeah, understand, right.
Right? So and so there's nothing wrong with being, you know, handling it like that. And if they go, no, listen, I've had clients that said, listen, I'd love to sign up, or there's no way we're going to make the next deadline. It's going to have to be January or February. Okay, no problem. Our standard rates are this, and I can send you over the basic quote. Where do we go from here? And that's just the way it was. See, I found if I would have done this, if I would have just offered, hey, we're offering 10% or 20% off, or free seats or whatever, or free, you know, tech support or whatever, you know, for deals that get done, you know, before XYZ, they really couldn't get it done by then anyway, they would have come back and said, no, I can't get it done. But guess what happens when they call me in January? When they would have bought at regular price, now they want the free stuff as well, or the discount.
The discount, yeah.
Yeah, and now we're taking money out of everybody's pockets that we didn't need to. So you really, I like that you're motivated. You know what I mean? That's fabulous. And the company should be, you know, grateful that they have somebody on there that's trying to get these deals done. But you have to be careful not to put your or the company's interest ahead of your prospects, because if you do that, we are done. We're going to lose their trust. So listen, John, you call up, John, listen, I know we spoke about getting XYZ to solve this. It's kind of going a little slow. We were hoping to get the deal done before Christmas. You know, so where are we with this? Well, I don't know if we can get it done by then. Well, let me ask you a question. If my management gave me a little extra motivation to try to, because I know you guys are busy, right? You're trying to wrap things up. But if I had a little extra motivation to pass on to you, do you think that we can make it happen? Well, what's the other motivation? Well, I'll get to that in a second, but do you think it can happen if the incentive is good enough? Well, no, I mean, the CFO has to sign off on this. He's already gone for 3 weeks. He won't be back till January. Now you're okay. No problem. Right. I appreciate that. Listen, it doesn't matter what it is then because it was for people that want to get this thing done the next week or so. Let me ask you a question. I mean, is it possible that you could email him, he would respond, or do you know that's just it's a done? You know, it's not going to happen until the end of until he gets back from January. If they go, yeah, no, nothing's going to happen until you get back from January. No problem. Where do we go from here? When should you and I speak next? See, everybody else is going to say, okay, I'll call you the first week of January. And then he's not going to take your call. So if it's a no, it's okay, listen, no problem. You know, where do we go from here? When should you and I speak next? And then they'll go, well, you know what, why don't you give me a call, blah, 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 and you put it down. In the rare event that they go, well, you know, we'll just reach out to you, it almost never happens to me anymore because I follow my process. If I skip steps, you'll get, oh, don't call us, we'll call you because you skip steps. But if you're following the steps, you'll almost never get that. But in the rare event that you do, you simply go ahead and go, wow, you listen, usually when I hear that, that means you're really not interested in that. Listen, you won't hurt my feelings. I don't want to chase you if you don't want to be caught. You know, is it just too much on your plate, or have you decided maybe we're not the best fit? You know, almost like a little polite takeaway, and they'll hear, oh, no, really, we're just so swamped right now. Okay, no problem. Is it okay if I haven't heard from you by the second week of January? Is it okay to reach out to you then? Yeah, if you don't hear from me by then, that's fine. Okay, great. Or they might go, yeah, you know what, we're really just not interested anymore. Okay, great. You take them off and you move on, and you live to fight another day.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So don't mention the percentage. Make sure you get a response before you mention anything. And then if they're interested, or if you look like it's going to close, then obviously you can get into the deal making.
Listen, here's where I learned this from. Okay, I learned this, and when I first got one of my first sales, it was in car sales, and what it was is my manager, when I would go with somebody, and then I come back with a number that the prospect gave me, did they commit? And they go, yeah, they said they'd buy, and okay, we'll do that deal. They go back and they go, okay, great, we want to think about it, and they go to another dealer. And then I would get crucified, and he's like, listen, this is the mistake you're making. You have to get cash, keys, and commitment, meaning cash. Get cash in hand. Sir, if I can give it to you at this ridiculously low monthly payment, you know, how much would you put down? 25 grand? Okay, give me a check for that. Let me go see if I can get it approved for you. Also, I need the keys to your trade-in. And just so I'm clear, if I can get you this number, right, we can do business now. Is that correct? And if they go, yes, okay, now I get the cash, I get the down payment, right, the keys to their trade-in, I got the equipment, and now I go to get it done. And I go to my boss. And I really took it from that standpoint. If you just ask, if they go, well, could you do it for this? I go, let me go find out, and you come back, it's the same way what you're saying. You're already saying up front, hey, I can give you 10% off if you do it before now. Okay, great, well, let me think about it. You know, we got other things on our plate. But if you said, I might have a special incentive that could really be beneficial to you, but it would just need to get the deal done before next week. I mean, if the incentive is good enough, you know, is that a possibility? Do you think you might be able to make that happen? That's right. It's the same things, right? It's really, we're talking the same 10%, but the mindset is and the commitment is totally, and the motivation is totally different now.
I see. No, I can switch it up some. Absolutely. I want to try it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, I just noticed that Kathy and Ricky logged in too. So hey guys, so I got them all on mute. But all right. With that being said, Kathy or Ricky, first of all, Craig, do you have any other questions? And then I can go to those two.
No, just like the beginning, Mike. I mean, that's where I'm really working on right now, and those are my biggest obstacles right now. But you kind of answered the process which I'm going through, and now going back on the phone is something I'm going to change it up as far as how I'm going to, basically introduce it that way versus the way that I was doing, and see if I get better feedback.
Yeah, all right, good. Yeah, you'll see. You just got to practice it, get it down, map it out. You have to map. I mean, I'm telling you, this is not sales. There's not rocket science, but there is a science to it. And when you skip steps, and it amazes me that people that have been in sales for 20 years and they think that they're great, but they're not hitting their numbers, and then they blame the economy or the leads or whatever, or the pricing structure of their competitors or what have you. And what it is they're not asking the basic sales questions in the right frame, meaning in the right time frame, the right way to ask them for the right reasons. But when you master those questions that you have to ask, you're going to notice that most of the objections you're getting right now, they're not even going to happen anymore because it's like vanishing oil. They disappear before they ever happen because you're asking the right questions along the way. Those won't even come up. And the biggest one is making sure we get problem recognition first, and that they see a problem, they want it solved, and then you find out, you know, if they're the right person and what to do if they're not. Because, you know, the last thing we want to do is present two things. They could be a decision maker and not see a problem, and we do a presentation they're not going to buy. They could be a non-decision maker, see a problem, love what we said, can't afford to make the decision, right? So we want to know, because that's a very real scenario, and we have to know when we're faced with one of those, what do we do? Other times you're going to have a prospect on the phone, they're the decision maker, they could afford it, and if you would have just got problem recognition to begin with for them to see that there's a reason to change from what they're doing now, they would have bought. But if you skip that step, then it's still a no sale. You get, well, you know, it sounds good, but I think we'll just stick with what we have. And in your head, you're like, that makes no sense, but it happened because, you know, we asked a couple of probing questions based on what they said. We knew we had a better solution, but we didn't get them to see that there's a problem with what they're doing yet. And we just went forward, and now they don't see a reason to change. And those are the problems. But when you put it all together, and you follow the process step by step, asking the right questions for the right reasons, you're going to see that most of these objections are going to go away.